Welcome to Bird Dog Chat with Ethan and Kat and Charles.
Just Charles.
And just Charles. We're 2 minutes late. It's been an evening, folks. No technical difficulties, just life difficulties. So here we are, ready to go. The bingo cards were just reset, so you need to jump back in there and grab one. Apologize for that. There's a whole gobbledygook of cards mixed in there. And
if you are new to our Bird Dog Chats, we have an order of operations. Typically, we roll through some check-ins, which I'm about to do now, and then talk about a few upcoming events and cool little things and tidbits that we want to share with you. Then we either roll into a topic of discussion or open it up to questions. So if you have a question that's just burning a hole in your pocket and you have to ask, you can ask via a super chat.
Put it on the bingo card.
Distractions. The boys are in here tonight watching the Lego movie or something, I think. And, of course, then Kate has to ask a question as soon as the live starts. But that is just fine. That's part of the life and balance that we're talking about. So if you have a question that you really want to ask, throw a super chat up there. We give those precedence, and then we'll answer those questions towards the end here. But if there is a super chat, we try and give those precedence. Okay, so checking in, Brian Gaddy, evening from Colorado Springs. And I believe that this little crown with the number 1 means he was the first one logged in live.
no, number 1 fan for the, it's a top fan for the stream.
Top fan for the stream?
Yeah,
How does that
it's a
even
list
get,
first, second, third.
how does that get even calculated?
It's based on,
It's AI. Just say AI.
it's,
There's an algorithm.
I
There's
don't
an
think I can
AI,
say
there's a thing.
AI.
Sure
Now
you
the
can.
video will get flagged.
So not first to tune in, but number 1 fan. And then Aaron Mumblu is our number 2 fan. Hello from Minnesota.
You
So
get points based on comments and interactions and things of that
Crazy.
nature. There were specifics on the fact that it was a new feature, but not a lot of specifics on how it worked.
So where no one knows the rules and the points don't matter?
Well, I think the points matter, but no one knows the rules.
So your guess is as good as ours. Perfect. We've got West Virginia, Harry Francis. We've got Coors and I checking in from Alberta, our first international check-in. Thanks, Kaylin. Checking in from Arkansas, Blaine Bean. Good to have you here. Perfect. So we've got a few check-ins. I'm sure a few more will be rolling in as we go. So let's roll into a few announcements.
Do it to it.
So it's pretty much too late, but if you have nothing to do this weekend, we are having our Versatile Dog Training Seminar here at Standing Stone Kennels Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a full day on Saturday and a full day on Sunday. We've got a lot of great things that we're going to be going over. Charles will be there, Jess will be there, Tessa will be there, Ethan and I will be there. No Bob this time because this is not the Lone Stone Seminar, but we have a few people signed up that were at the Lone Stone Seminar, so that'll be really cool to see how much progress has been made in a little over a month and a half with those dogs. I know Angela's going to be there, Kara's going to be there, so that's really exciting to see some familiar faces that have been at these seminars in the past. Kaylin, you can just pop real quick down from Canada, and make
Just
it
a quick flight.
just a quick flight. Be here before you know it. Sounds like Coors is doing some really cool stuff, though. So is there a glitch in the Matrix? Because it's like Coors checking in from Alberta multiple times.
I think she's trying to she got up to number 2 fan by doing it. I don't know if it was on purpose or not.
I see how it's not a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, there's 25 points per interaction, it looks like.
Dang.
And then more points for other things that I don't know what those are yet, but
Very cool. Okay, that's a cool new feature. Kind of exciting, kind of crazy. Other than our upcoming seminar, we just got back from Argentina, which I didn't know until we were in Argentina that Charles has actually also been to Argentina before. Not with us, but on another crazy Antarctica trip.
Yeah, very different reason.
Different reasons, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But we just got back about a week ago, a week and a day, and it was an amazing experience. We're actually going to hop on a podcast with Bob and Kevin tomorrow to record the podcast about the experience, share some really cool tidbits, tips and tricks, if you will, things that you should know, things to bring, things not to bring, things to bring back, whatever. And then
things not to bring back.
Things not to bring back, the whole gamut of things we'll be talking about. And that will get recorded and then put out pretty quickly. We're trying to turn these podcasts that we record around pretty quickly, so they're very timely. We'll do another podcast on the Versatile Dog Seminar, a little recap like we did about the Lone Stone Seminar, have Jess and Charles pop in on that one. And then this Friday, I think there's the last hunt test of the season podcast going out with Ethan and Jess. So they've been kind of fun.
There's one more. Actually, there's not really a season anymore for me. It's just all.
It just all blurs together.
Yeah, because technically I'm running in July and September right now.
I think I'm referring to AKC stuff right now. Okay. But yeah, we'll have to do a recap of the Kansas NAVHDA test here in July and update people on how dogs did. And then, yeah, you've got Mow Uplands in is that September? Mm-hmm, for sure. And then maybe we'll sneak another AKC test in if we can, because poor Eastie Boy. Wait. Spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to the podcast yet, because it doesn't come out till Friday, he needs one more pass.
Only one.
Just one. But you can't enter him in just one because that's a good way to jinx yourself. So you have to at least enter him in 2.
Yeah.
Always enter him in all of them.
Yeah, if it's 4, go home early on Saturday if you get
all
one.
of the opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, you're going to be here with Weller this weekend for the seminar. I'm really excited for you guys to be here. I don't know if I should tell you this, but literally the bourbon's going to make it on Monday.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm like a day late, literally a day late and $1 short. So it just didn't work out for the guy that's bringing up his dog for training to bring the bourbon with him until that Monday.
There will still be plenty of bourbon.
Oh, yeah. It's not like it's all going to be gone, so.
No. I mean, even this weekend.
Oh,
it just won't be that one.
It just won't be the bourbon. Yeah, for sure. What other announcements do you have?
We have part of this evening's discussion is we got to figure out who we're breeding Cassie to.
We've got some ideas. We
actually podcast tomorrow. We've threatened to do this a lot, where we kind of sit down and just talk through it.
I think that.
That's what we're doing. I got it pulled up to look at pedigrees and go through it.
Oh, we do it now?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we'll do it this evening. And figure out
the beginning of next year, though, when we do finalize all of our breeding plans for the year, that's going to be a big whole podcast.
Yeah.
Just didn't end up having time to get around to it this year. Always all these great ideas and so little time to put them together.
We've been doing a good amount of, and by we I mean mostly Charles, has been doing a good amount of invitational prep, but I've started with some of the baby steps with Thunder, and it's provided some interesting opportunities, including most recently videoed and put out today, just a basic step of understanding essentially shutting off pressure by going to a pile. So pile work as a basic refresher of you can turn off the collar by going and fetching something. It's an important step that is part of the train to treat process, but then kind of goes by the wayside-ish because most of the dogs, once they finish with that, have a pretty high desire to go complete the task, and it's baby steps that they get repped on, like, oh, I fumbled it maybe, or I need to pick it up again, or something like that. But it's rarely you need to go get it that gets applied. So we had to kind of remind that because there will be times that we do need to apply a little bit of pressure to say, hey, go ahead and go get that during this process, depending on the dog and where they're at and those sort of things. So.
And it's just making sure that they have a fair understanding of the pressure. So when you're using it, they understand what it means. And so you start. I didn't watch the video because I've been here all day, but I saw it being filmed. So very short introductory to beginning. Back to that.
Reminders.
Yeah.
It's like when you go back to school in the fall.
It's plugged in.
It's what?
That camera needs plugged in.
Oh, God, is it?
There you go. Technical difficulties. Just the white one in the side. Yeah. The white one in the side of the thing there. I almost got them all.
Well, hopefully that one wasn't too important.
That's all right. All right. So as far as the rest of things go, this is kind of a tough part of the summer. And it's because the days get longer and also hotter. So a big part of, and everybody's favorite part of the year,
is right around the corner on Monday.
The
Monday
officially opens at 5 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. on Monday. Mazel tov.
I'm already tired.
Yeah, I understand. The biggest part of that is we do have to get after things earlier. It kind of changes the way the dynamics of training work. Generally speaking, throughout the year, you can do entire days worth of field work. Like today, we're going to be working on this, and then Wednesday again, we have more field work that's slightly different maybe, and then again Thursday or Friday, depending on weather and things of that nature. But this time of year, it's basically 5 days a week we have to do bird work, and it has to be spread out amongst the dogs in smaller portions because you get daybreak until maybe 10 o'clock as opposed to 6 until whenever, all day.
All day, whenever you want to quit,
Yeah.
whenever you get through it all. The other side of it is, though it's not bright and sunny at 5 a.m., it is getting there by 5:30. And so getting in, getting kennel chores taken care of, dogs let out, and then trailer loaded so that when the sun, or that's right before sunrise, is starting to happen and the daylight's happening, you can actually be rolling, hitting the field, setting birds, things like that, not rolling into the field after the sun's already been up for 30 minutes. That's what's going to help it keep it cool. One other little announcement, which is a sneak peek for everybody that's actually here. It'll go out in the newsletter as well. But I have been working on another course and have it almost completed for our obedience-only dogs. So most of the people here probably have the bird dogs. Tonight, usually it's a bird dog chat, so people usually have their hunting dogs that are tuning in. However, we've had tons of requests. Oh, I don't hunt, or I just need the obedience part of the course. Do you have something like that? And so I sat down and said, we don't, but I can create it. So took great pieces from each of the courses, the versatile dog course, the retriever course, and some of the videos that weren't in any of the courses that have been newly created or with some of the cockers, and kind of smooshed it all together and put it in a good order so that it is easy to follow along with, just like the other two courses. It doesn't include the hunting-based stuff. It does not include the entire trained retrieve piece. However, it includes all of the other obedience stuff plus some additional obedience drills that you can be working on. And then it also still includes retrieving in general because most dogs, whether they are a working dog, a sporting dog, hunting dog, benefit from some form of structure, some form of activity that they can really get behind and expend energy. And so retrieving is one of those things that we can really do to have fun with our dogs. So that's still included in the course, different retrieving drills and water introductions and things like that.
Absolutely. This is one thing that I wanted to kind of show off. Last live, we gave away a waterer, which is one of the things that we make, and explain that we'd be able to customize it. So this here is kind of a fun thing that it's the best we got at this point as far as a logo and design goes. And then Tina, who won, actually sent me her logo for their hunting preserve and operation, and we went ahead and put that on this side. So this is something that we don't currently list as offering, but it is something that we will be. And if you call me, you'll have the opportunity to custom order something like that. But we can do basically anything. And if you need help with the design side of things, I'm definitely the furthest thing from a design expert, but I would be happy to attempt. Let's go with that.
Don't sell yourself short. I've seen some of the cool designs you've come up with. We've got a couple new t-shirts in the works that'll be coming in. I don't know, not in too terribly long, that'll hit the store, that look really cool that you, one was with Hazel again. She's just a really dang good-looking dog, and it's a cool picture. That picture, not only is it on the water, it's now going to be on a t-shirt. We actually had a person from Facebook Instagram, I think, reach out and actually pencil sketched it. I have it framed, hanging in the house now. So Hazel's a pretty awesome dog, and she looks really good. I think she's even on the DT Systems booth.
She's a DT and something with DT too.
DT
She
booth,
is the dog in the back of the banner.
Yeah, so she's been used on lots of different things from a really cool looking dog. So she'll be on one of the t-shirts, and then just another really cool short hair design for another t-shirt coming out soon.
Yes, and I got right here that the homing pigeon hat is legendary. Also, I have the cocky version on this evening.
And Charles has the America, which is very appropriate since
classical.
we're like a week away from the 4th.
It's coming.
Classic.
Yeah, it is.
Been around a while. So, one of the things that we've been talking a little bit about Hazel daughter, Cassie, actually is a dog that I co-own with my uncle. If anybody's ever heard hunting stories, I haven't done a lot of them, but Uncle Rich, everybody that knows me refers to him as Uncle Rich. So, and he kind of, I think, loves and hates it all at the same time, but he has now officially started to introduce himself as Uncle Rich in circles
groups,
that I'm involved in. So, yep, and I'm Uncle Rich, he says. So, we have Cassie, and she was slotted for having a really bad cycle time. So it was going to be one of those things that she wasn't scheduled to come in until like September or something-ish, which would put her out for most, if not all, of the hunting season, as well as screw up the final testing event opportunity and all those things. So we were trying to wait on it. Well, she ended up coming in early, and she's it was next cycle we were going to attempt to breed her, but it times out better, where she won't miss any of hunting season, and we'll have the opportunity to hopefully test at the ranch.
Yeah, so, she'll definitely miss her September test.
Yeah.
She signed up for it. But she can come down south. She's very close.
We've got to finalize. If you want to switch to camera 5, please. And I can't set up all of the wonderful things. I can't set up picture-in-picture to work to... Did it pull up there?
Yeah, you're on it. I'm just trying to see if I can get... there we go. It's small, but we're there in the corner.
All right. Sweet.
Upper left-hand corner over here, just so you know on your laptop.
Upper left.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Got it. So, a couple of the things that we've talked about briefly before, but we haven't gotten into a ton of depth over, is some of the things that we look at. Now, the number one thing that we look at with dogs, I don't want to say number one. There's a lot of pieces that go into it, but one of the most important things that we look at is the individual characteristics of each dog that we're considering mating. That is a big part of it. Another big part of it is, what does that look like on paper? Because we do have dogs that would be half siblings and things of that nature, that not that that's necessarily the wrong thing, but it's also something that needs to be paid attention to. So when we look at this, first and foremost, this is pedigree, publisher, version, whatever. There's a big learning curve when it comes to this program, and they've changed it a handful of times over the years. So
kind of like the AKC website. As soon as you figure out where things are and how to find them, they switch it on you.
This is the newest version. So first of all, we can pull up, and I should have prepped, again, things of not preparedness here. No, she's in here. I was going to say she's got to be.
Yeah.
Callie's Succession. This is Callie, one of our foundation females, also was one of Uncle Rich's, what I believe he categorizes as the best bird dog that he's ever owned, and feels like Cassie has the opportunity to surpass her. So kind of a cool feeling when you can see that. And he's had several bird dogs in between there that they're all good. We have this conversation on a regular basis. Anyone could take any one of those dogs, not anyone, but most people could take any one of those dogs and go, wow, this is the nicest bird dog that I've ever hunted behind in my entire life. And when you've had something slightly better or a lot better in some situations, you can recognize some of the differences. So we can pull up here and look. Callie is This is the wrong one. Here we go. So 5 generation. It is I want that to just move over, but it's really not doing it. I will do this. Oop. So that I can get it over here to make sure that we're not getting covered up. Or it's not getting covered up.
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
So Standing Stone's Gun for Hire. That's Shooter. This was a frozen breeding to Hazel, the beautiful dog on the old waterer here, and pictures and shirts and
The whole 9 yards.
everything. Yep. So, and that's Hazel. This is kind of a fun part that I can update here. Nice work, Charles. Master Hunter.
And UT.
UT2. NA3 UT2. MH wheat. Okay. So that's done. Now it shows all of this down here for Hazel. You may be looking, if you haven't seen our other video, I did one with Fred Rice that was a podcast, actually, and you can go, I don't know, we just talk about it, or did I actually have the...
Your screen, I believe, is, if you go to YouTube, I believe you have it recorded.
Okay, on the
video. Because you did
portion.
the Riverside at the time.
Yes. It's been a little bit of time, but definitely there's a really good conversation talking about what is too tight and what is not too tight and how to look at different line breedings and kind of an ideal behind breeding short hairs as well as some history. So the colored dogs here are repeated ancestors. So you can see here, Sharpshooters Man in Black also shows up down here as Sharpshooters Man in Black. Jagerhoff, Sir Henry Higgins, again, and Sharpshooters Prairie Dancer. So we've got a little of those pieces that are in there. You have Stradivarius Baroque. He shows up a couple times, but this is just in this 5-generation pedigree. You have here a coefficient of inbreeding for her is 9.5%. And then we can look up from a genetics tab to be on the database. I can look up the genetics tab and then calculate inbreeding. This shows we want to do 10 generations, calculating, it's already done. We have 2,046 dogs present of all possible 2,046 ancestors in a 10-generation pedigree.
What I want to point out about this is if you don't have 2,046 dogs recorded in your pedigree, your numbers are going to be skewed. And so Ethan and I have put a ton of time into entering dogs. I remember
and even
nights where we did
even
hours.
Charles and stuff. We've shared whole database pieces back and forth. So,
but the more dogs you have entered, the more complete your pedigrees will be, as well as more accurate your numbers are going to be from how many unique dogs, your COIs, things like that. So if you only have half that number of dogs entered, your numbers aren't going to mean anything.
Now, I've had this conversation with a lot of people smarter than myself, and most of them have said something to the effect of, Ethan, it's not this simple. I'm like, well, I know it's not this simple, but there are some things that, some pieces that can be inferred based on the data that's present. I mean, it's proven just by
using the data, looking at what comes out in the whelping box. Correct. And going, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen.
And rarely are there's wild cards, but rarely are there entire litters that you go, that's not what I expected at all. Usually it's pretty dang close with an outlier here or there. Small numbers. But when we look at these counts here, let me spread this bad boy across so we can see more. Calculating. A couple of the things that we do look at is percentage blood, and this one is an interesting one. I can sort this, and you can see now that I sorted it the wrong way. Right here, you have a Cassie at 100% blood of herself. That makes sense, right? And then 50-50, quote-unquote, percent blood would be her parents. And then when you go down from that, 25% would be grandparents. And you can see already that Sharpshooters Man in Black is more than a grandparent at 28% because he shows up multiple times. a single time. A total count of twice in the whole pedigree. That blue makes it really kind of hard to see, I feel like.
Yeah,
When I click on it.
Don't highlight
Stop
it.
clicking. Oh, don't
The whole
click on
thing.
all of it. Okay. Click on one then. The next thing that we can sort is no sort, and then we can actually go even further this
Count?
direction. Oh, it is just the count. It's right there. Descending. Okay, so now we can look here. We have Hillhaven's Hustler. I'll click down here because I want to just be able to highlight. Hillhaven's Hustler. He shows up 31 times, which if you've seen, we did this somewhat, or I talked about this in another one recently, but a lot of our numbers are getting drastically higher with tighter breedings on Hustler. Somewhere in the 40s and 50s as far as count goes. And that's the total number of spots that Hustler himself fills in out of 2,046 slots. So we look at those things, and it kind of gives you an idea. Cassie being she has some line breeding. Her coefficient of inbreeding is 9.5%. We've seen and worked with numbers as high as in the upper 20s to low 30s, or as low as I think Nick's is like 0.05 or something to that
It's not
effect.
that low, I don't think.
It's low. We can look, but it's low. So the other side of things that we do tend to look at would be this count, and then the last, explaining this piece, going back to the report tab, you have the coefficient of inbreeding that we were talking about, and then this unique ancestor. So the COI is most directly affected by the first 4 generations, what's up front. The unique ancestors number is most directly affected by the 5 through 10 generations, what's in the back. And 789 is a pretty high number, meaning more outcrossed than some of our other breedings. I've seen things as low as
In the 500s.
not breedings that we've specifically done, but as low as the 200s. And I believe that Addie falls into that category. Let's see.
Can you look it up just from there?
I thought
Nope.
you could.
You might have one pretty low.
Let's see. SCK.
What's Vale?
Not as low as you'd think.
Really?
Yeah.
But the
COI
is high.
Yeah, because it's up front.
Yep.
So, actual one, Stillwater, if we go here, calculating breeding for this individual dog, it's 322. So that means, and we're missing a few dogs, so that number would go up a few, maybe as many as
What you're missing.
44, right? But still, you're in the category of 360 approximately.
If that dog made up all of the ones that you were missing, which
Yes.
is not likely.
Yep. So 300 and no, if we just added 40 to that,
Just
we're in
every just assume
every
that
dog would be
unique-
another unique ancestor.
Yeah,
Every
everyone's
gotcha.
missing
So-
is unique, which may not be, but
There'd probably be some repeats in there, but 360 dogs filled the 2,046 slots. To put that in perspective, not very many. So then we can look at, it'd be Hex, it'd be the same.
yeah.
What is
Double trouble.
Yep. Lots of registered names. Okay, one more. We'll look here. Hex is 575. Again, we're missing similar, though, in the category of approximately 40. I don't know which side that comes off of, but his inbreeding coefficient's 28%. No, 0.2%, which is not anywhere near as high as you thought it would be, is it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So,
Thanks, Questy.
yeah, essentially. And then the last, just because we're here.
I think I
and-
did a 28% COI.
Yeah, and according to Fred, no, there's no such thing as too tight. So 3.7 is Nixer. Really, really COI with
Not
a
very tightly bred.
755 unique dogs. So essentially as outcrossed-ish as
We've got.
Cassie is. That's what I'm saying. She's
9.
tighter bred in the front half, but she was like in the 7-somethings,
Yep.
750s-ish or close to. All right, so on to the more important stuff. We need to decide who we're going to breed her to. A couple of the options, like we talked about, We need
I
to
think
evaluate.
we were between two that we wanted to look at.
Yep. So the thing that I would have to say is, and I want your opinion, you've been doing a good portion of her training. What does she need? This is a question that we always ask. What does the dog need? And what male do we know of or have access to or whatever that could fill that void without causing more problems? That's always the game that we're looking for.
And that's a hard question for people to typically answer, honestly, because especially if they're looking at their personal dog that they want to maybe do a breeding with, when they're like, my dog's perfect. Well, no dog is perfect. They're lacking somewhere. What could they improve on? So
I would be curious how she is in the house because she's a little noisy in the kennel. So that'd be something I would want to worry about. But what we've come to kind of find out is that doesn't really transfer to the house because we produce dogs that do well in the house and not necessarily well in a kennel.
correct.
Yeah,
So,
on top of younger dogs as a whole, I mean, you get them in that type of environment, they're a totally different dog. Doesn't matter which and what. And, if she was 7 and was noisy in the kennel, I would
Nix.
go, wow.
Yeah.
He will just bark in the kennel. In the house, he never barks.
It's more like just pleading for his mommy to come back. He goes, Mommy,
But he's got his Nixer bark.
Arf, arf, arf.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But it's a little hoarser than that, I think.
Yeah, well, it definitely is by night too.
So what does
So
she
I would
need?
say she is a little bouncy. So trying to work on healing, that kind of thing, settling her down is tough. So a thunderbutt would probably not be the best idea from that standpoint. But also brings a lot of other things, interesting things to the table. Let's start with what her strengths are, and then sometimes that helps me get to weaknesses easier. One of the best marking dogs, I don't know.
Of the young crew.
Don't know how or why, because her daddy was not exactly known for that. And Hazel's no slouch, but she's not. I mean, Cassie did a 110-yard pigeon mark on a sailed pigeon. I mean, just stepped on it, straight to it. I mean, it's just, she's been a natural with that. She's been an incredibly natural duck search dog, probably one of the best duck search dogs in the last couple of years. As far as puppies go, her steadiness is going really well. She's doing really well with that. That busyness has kind of showed up in her steadiness a little bit with some self-regulating by kind of backing up, moving around a lot more. So I think that'd be the main thing.
A little more happy-footed.
Yeah, just busier a little bit, like at heel specifically.
And she is really young.
Kind of waiting. She is very young, which is why she's not being pushed.
Young
super
from
hard.
a steadiness standpoint.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, typically, she's like Muddy, or a little bit older than Muddy was.
Yeah, she's two. And
She's 2, so
something.
but she's still, from a steadiness standpoint, like when we're talking about testing dogs, we won't test them till they're 3. So she is on the young side, but she's prepping, so has some maturity to do there.
That would be the main thing that I would worry about would be the busyness, the inability to settle down, which she will get better. They always do as they understand the tasks better, unless they're splash.
Yeah, but splash to the right dog is also a very important part.
Oh,
of
yeah.
things.
But it's
Little Riot's pretty nice dog.
Yeah. Oh, I love Splash.
And she loves you,
She
Charles.
does love me. Until she doesn't.
Calculating. So
You can grab me something out of this little blue cooler over here. It'd be great. Out of that cooler.
how long does it take to calculate? Well,
Are you doing the whole database on accident?
It's still the green bar is still moving.
Bushlight lime.
Ooh.
I'm curious now.
You want to try it? Let me grab one.
Lime.
It's very summery to me, as
I
you would
understand
expect.
that. All right,
It's
sorry,
almost
folks.
there.
Still calculating. Hold on. We'll wait.
Okay, well, while we're calculating, I'm going to make another cocktail.
And we're done.
Put me in the
we're all snugged in
tight.
here.
Yeah, we're snug. We got microphones everywhere.
The problem I have and why it's good that we hash this out and talk about it is because I just want to breed Doc to everything because I love him.
Yeah, and there's pluses and minuses
There
to
is
that too.
There is.
We've got thoughts. So generally speaking, I will say not always, but if we have an option, I will choose a couple of factors to start with. We would choose from somebody that's proven. We're not going to take an unproven male to an unproven female. We want to eliminate potentials as far as, let's say she doesn't take. Well, was that her fault or was it his fault? Well, because they were both new, we don't have any idea. Also, that goes for outside males from a trainability standpoint, or if they're older, a fertility standpoint, or any and all of the things. We want to eliminate the potential for the if she doesn't take category, what was the problem? Because we're going to do timing, we're going to do all of those things. What is the potential problem? So of those options, then if we can avoid going outside for first breedings, again, for just a fact of spending money on a stud fee that's, a few $1,000s plus travel plus all the things on a female that, again, if it doesn't take and we go, was it the male? Was it the process? Was it the travel? Was it her? We don't know.
Same reason for no frozen on a first one.
And exactly, we would try. Unless
there's
that
no
was
hard
the
and fast
only
rules,
dog
but
left in the whole world, we're going to try not to do a frozen breeding on a first timer as well. So, all of that being said, we have 3 really nice options in house that are all breedable to her and all provide something different. So, we'll look at Doc first because you mentioned him as what you want to breed everything to.
But for her specifically, also my boy, which is probably where you were leaning. It is kind of double bred shootery. Run Doc, but then we're talking about East. It's for the people that don't know all the code words that we just.
Yeah, I've got Doc up here. Okay?
Yeah, Doc first.
Yep. So Standing Stone's El Tesoro Medicine Man. He is up here as the Master Hunter, and I'm just checking myself at this point. Good. So that is a Thunder Quest dog bred to a shooter hazel dog. Now you can see some colors pop up here. You have the Standing Stone's Time for Trouble.
So should be twice at least.
And again. And again.
So Vex.
Yep. You get Vex in there a good deal. You also get the half sisters here. Hazel is
Hazel, yeah.
Muddy's sister. So in that, though looking at the dogs themselves, Doc would settle down some of the happy footing and some of the things to an extent. Also, genetically speaking, could encourage them, which is, this is what it is. But most likely you're going to see what's up front in the dogs, not some magic stuff happening behind that, like, they're going to throw what
it would
they
be
are
the
ish.
outlier would be, this outlier is very happy footed because
Correct.
this is where it's coming from.
It got all of the little magic
Genes that trickled through.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Which Vex wasn't, but anyway. But
No, Vex was not.
But
he definitely
Mama
was
Muddy
not.
is definitely a happy gal.
And the other side of it, though, is Thunder is not in a steadiness category.
Nope.
He's not an incher. He's not a happy footer. He's not a creeper. He's
just
staunch
bouncy.
Bouncy.
at healing related things.
Working. Time to go to work.
Yeah. He does a little bit of leaking. When it's time to wait to go to work.
But when he's working, he's not leaking. But when he's anticipating the work that's going to be happening,
That's
he's
when you
leaking.
see a little of it.
It will be interesting to watch him heal to the double mark.
With great drive comes great responsibilities as a dog handler.
Is Ethan running Thunder? Have we decided this yet?
I think so.
I think so.
Maybe.
We're gonna drag him to New Mexico, and he's gonna hang out in our camper. And
I'm excited. I really am.
Look at
So-
that face of excitement.
he is.
So the next thing that we have here, so that's one option. we can see some things. Let's go ahead and pull all the pieces. Here's the genetics category. We can look at the calculating for this individual
How
dog.
do we end up for unique and percent of blood?
I need glasses. That's
count?
so small. Can you make it bigger?
Who's squinting at the screen now? COI is 13.3%, and the total number of unique ancestors is 595.
In the ballpark.
It falls into the category of not too tight, but not too loose. We're in the Goldilocks zone of breeding here.
I like that.
I like that.
Next here, we can sort descending. This is what I was talking about before. Look at this old bad boy.
65.
Hustler shows up a lovingly 65 times.
He's 17.9% of blood.
So he's a great grandparent.
Yeah.
He's a great grandparent, but does not show up until generation 6, which, if you are unfamiliar, folks, we can count that out for everybody that doesn't know. You know, I don't know who that would be, but it would be in the vicinity of great, 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 great grandparent.
One more great, right? No,
4.
that's 5.
That was count. What was percent of? Oh, did you do percent of blood? Just
No.
curious. He's going to show up right up there, but I'm curious. Vex should be.
Yep, 17.8. That's what I said was percent of blood.
Yeah, but
Vex should
everybody.
be up to.
Yeah, so Vex shows up more than a grandparent because he's 3 times, and the minimum generation, though, is 3rd. So
He bumped himself a generation.
You've got the Shooting Star Sharpshooter falls in here. He comes up a lot, 32 times. That's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. He's out of Excalibur on Enstrand. And
Veen Bean probably brings a bunch of that. And let's see. Shooter would bring a bunch of that.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yep.
So, option.
So
numero
that's
uno.
Doc.
Okay, now let's look at East. I like the pretty color version first, folks. This is the double-bred shooter category. So, again, we've got color, but we've got it a little bit different category-wise.
So it's really interesting. The Cassie Doc is more of a line breeding on Vex. And then the Cassie East is more of a line breeding on Shooter. Both 2 very impressive dogs from our program, stud dogs from our program. So it's kind of it kind of gets to be like, well, what do you want? Which
I would
is
say
it?
from
One
a
or the other?
conformation standpoint, East will help her conformation and her build more.
Then Doc. How so?
Head shape, angulation, top line. They're both pretty solid, but I'm just looking at them in my head, and I feel like East would complement her more.
He definitely carries the shooter head, and she does not have it.
Somehow didn't get it
Out
from
being
her
a
dad.
direct daughter.
Which it'll be really interesting. Also, I'm kind of excited, just kind of switching gears, but not really switching gears, is Tina's dog Jade is coming out to the seminar.
Which I
Is
already
a
told
hazel
her
shooter puppy as well, so
you
it's
could
Cassie's sister.
double her up on the way out here because you're not going to need space for her on the way home.
She gonna stay.
Maybe if she disappears, she might know where to look. We've got the Cassie East list here with a coefficient of 16% and a unique Doug's of 595. So slightly
Very Goldilocks-y, though, still.
tighter on the front end, and right where we
Same place.
14, where we 16.
We're right in the
Yeah, and then 595 is very, very
unique.
Very, very similar.
I was more thinking about unique because that number.
COIs are 13. Yeah, we went from 13 to 16, which is what I thought. But then it was 595 and 595. Is that really?
That would be kind of crazy.
I think it was very close to that. I'm sorry, folks. I don't remember. 595 and 595.
Yeah. Cray.
Wild.
That's interesting.
Okay. So,
The things that we learn.
The
more you know, the more you know.
It's randomly not random. If we look at percentage blood again,
should be a lot of. You're gonna get some axle in there now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Shooters, 37%. 25, 21.
It's shooter pops up, and then let's go ahead and just go to the count category. That's more what I wanted to see right this second. Again, we see lots of hustler, but it's 53 times,
Instead
not
of like
60
65.
something. And then we jump down in here.
Cali.
We do have some other stuff it peters out. Like this 20 to 30 range is pretty standard. When you get up into this stuff, it's interesting. Now, one of the things that I have seen, I've heard before, Hustler himself categorized, and I don't know, I never met the dog, but Hustler himself categorized as kind of a wimp. And I feel like I see that in these tighter Hustler breedings, not wimpy in the sense of don't have drive or desire to go do things, but they take very minimal to non-existent collar pressure, for sure. Like where some of the other breedings that we had done that were geared different directions, more towards line bred on dog, Axel von Wasserslig, I think is how it's close to how it's pronounced.
We're going to go with it.
Yeah,
He's kind of an interesting story.
yeah, I don't know the story, but you talked about it at the...
We talked about it a little bit, yeah. He bounced around between, he came over here and some females were sent to him and bred, and then he came over here and did a tour of, I don't know, a couple of years. He was in the States.
Breeding everything
being
they
bred.
want.
Yep.
He shows up in some of the breedings a lot more, and the dogs that we see that we have some breedings that we've done that are in that vicinity, just like Hustler is, in the 30, 40, 50, 60 sometimes. I don't know about 60s as much, but 40s and 50s for sure.
He's definitely number one
Axel,
dog.
yes. And those dogs are tough as nails, like polar opposites. And very consistently, if we did a breeding like that, I can expect we're going to need, where we needed maybe 2 to 5, we're going to need 16 plus 5. Or now we've got 24, which it operates slightly different. It seems like it has a little more, but I still feel like they could take all of it and keep going at times, which is just a different level of toughness. So if Hustler throws wimps, I personally will take some of the wimpiness because it's a little easier to have some ability to handle, which is it more gears toward the direction of dogs that we're trying to breed, which is family-oriented, foot hunting, versatile companions. I mean, the ability to do those pieces. So another interesting option.
So now that we've looked at both of those options, clear as mud who we're going to decide, right?
Yeah, let's go on to...
Are you doing...
Thunder, we'll pull that up.
Okay.
So Thunder, also interesting-esque in a sense that Thunder is a muddy puppy.
It's a line breeding on Grit and Vex.
On
the Grit, I was going to say...
Grit Vex puppies.
Yep.
With an outcross with Shooter and an outcross with Benny the Jet.
Yep.
Rodriguez. So you see some very
basically the bottom half
are
of
exactly the
each
same.
of them are the same.
It would be similar. Actually, it'd be even more stacked up. Would be Cass. That would be if you want to show some color.
Yeah, okay, we'll throw it in there.
Well,
not a current
not
contender,
gonna probably
won't
happen.
Be,
not
he's
for
not
this.
currently proven yet.
No, I just an interesting.
Let's see.
If you want to talk about line
color
breeding,
coding.
Yeah, we'll throw him in there.
Cass is.
Did we finish this?
I'm just throwing him in there so I can get to it. Blank record.
I'm distracting him from that one.
Cassie
Because it's
Cass.
gonna be east.
We can be
Cassie
Cass. Sire is
He's also doing a very nice job.
Yeah, he's a nice dog.
And he's
There he is.
swam really
already
nice
highlighted
the
him.
last time. So
He swam better.
He was struggling a little bit when I used him as a pickup dog at the seminar.
Yeah, he was. Ooh,
He
didn't.
was swimming like
progress,
Grandma
though.
Gritty.
Yeah.
He's making progress though.
Yeah, he looks. No, actually, he was almost completely normal last time I duck searched him.
Good.
Good boy.
Good boy. Way to go. What do you know?
Did you put a life jacket on him?
I didn't. I
You
just
just swam him until he couldn't swim no more?
the problem is, I think I told you, and this is a funny story, is the first time that Hex and Cass were kind of out, I said, I'm just going to take the boys out, and we're going to go clean up some ducks. We're just going to go find all the ducks in a kayak. And they both wanted to point them the entire time they were in the water, and the duck was so tired that I could not dispatch it.
Because it was right there.
Because it was next to them, and they wouldn't grab it, and we spent 45 minutes before finally I basically used the kayak to separate the duck from the boys.
And then you could dispatch it.
And I could dispatch it. But Holy buckets. A lot of point in those boys. And that's kind of gone now, too. It was just the first time. They just had to get it out of their system.
It's interesting. So
What are we looking at right now?
this
Cassie
is
Thunder.
Cassie
Okay.
Thunder. We have a count of 50 and then drops down into the 35s and stuff. It's very, very similar.
I wouldn't think it'd be that different than Doc. You might be a
It's-
little less
it's
unique dogs.
Closer to East than it is to Doc.
And we go up from a unique dog category to
Or I mean up, sorry,
651.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you're oh, really? You go up?
Yeah, 650.
Oh, because Quest is Vex. So that's why. You lose the
And we dropped to an 11% COI.
yeah, because you
Yep,
lose Quest.
It is more of an outcross. So if you folks are following with this rambling that we're doing, this is just how the conversations go with trying to make these decisions. The COI goes down, which shows that it is more of an outcross, and the unique ancestors number goes up, which shows it is more of an outcross. And then we're going to go the opposite direction, and we'll pull this one up just because.
Because I like seeing all the colors.
Because why not? Make Charles happy. So we have
Look at all those pretty colors.
Yep, we have Standing Stone's Devil in Disguiso.
Which is Cass, who is
Cass.
a Hazel Thunder. No. Yeah, Hazel Thunder. Okay.
Hazel Thunder.
Double bred hazel.
Yeah, double bred Hazel.
Which is
Great facts.
Muddy is Hazel's sister. So it's a
Kind of triple bred Great Vex.
auntie. Yeah. And then again, we've got it going down here with the Shooting Star Sharpshooter or Standing Stone's Gun for Hire. The Man in Black. The other things back here. So let's look at this in the old. Pull it up. Come on, work. All right, so we went up to a coefficient of
21.
inbreeding of 21%.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-tsh. And then only a unique ancestor number dropped to 585,
So
which
that didn't
is
go down
the
much.
weird side of the front end, back end category. We see.
It's hard to get the fact that Addie was. That's why Addie being in the high 300s is like, whoa. 'Cause It's
Wild.
It's hard.
What is the other dog? It's not. I don't think Axel himself is even that tight. Axel's fairly outcrossish.
Not. I want to say Hessen House, but that's a German
not
restaurant.
Christian.
Heg
House.
Heg House did some like brother to sister, and then took those puppies and bred them to like their aunt. And I mean, they
Yeah,
did some
we don't need to get-
crazy.
Oh, I bet I can do it just like
45%, 50% COI,
this. Can I
300 uniques.
If this was a really nice database program, I could just sort by the coefficient here. Probably can somehow, but fine. Sort.
I think you're going to break your database.
Refresh. Oh, no.
That's all right. We can-
Everything's ruined. Back out. Don't save it. Kidding. So, 3 very interesting options that are similar, which is a thing that says our boys have a lot of similarities. And ultimately, where we're going to look for some level of outcrossing, and we have some of it mixed in with that, but we are going to have to look for some of those options. And from a me standpoint up front, I see the benefits of East to her. I see the benefits of Doc to her. And I see the benefits of Thunder to her. But
Well, decisions were made tonight,
I
apparently.
don't see
The other thing
perfect answer out of
is to
any of
look
the 3
at
of
what
them.
she was bringing to the boys, and Mr. East could always use a little help in the old marking department.
He could.
But both of them very steady. I haven't run her in a brace yet. You've hunted with her as far as backing if she needs.
She's great.
Okay, because East was going to bring that very
Either
heavy.
way, yeah.
So
No,
I mean,
she's
Doc
good.
and Thunder are fine too,
Well,
but
she
East
doesn't have
is
to
like
back very often,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
So, all that being
Something
said,
to think about too.
switch back to 1
Yeah.
for me when you can. Those are some of the things. Lots of just a little insight into.
It
just
gets
a
even
little insight.
more nuanced and we start looking at outside dogs, it gets real wild.
Yeah, it does, because we're not only trying to figure out.
We're trying to find them sometimes.
We're trying to find them. And
Like
we start
looking
looking
at-
like, I really want.
I like this male, but he's gone, and so what's the kind of this? And next thing you
How
know,
many puppies you get in?
You go look at their
That'll be
progeny
the-
reports, and then you go try and find if any of those dogs did anything, and if you can
next thing you
stud to
know,
one of
you're
them.
40 pedigrees deep, 40 tabs open on NAVDA, and
Yes.
30 on OFA, and you completely forget where you are. And how did I get to this dog that lives in Colorado?
The one piece, though, that when you do those outside breedings, unless you have a relationship with somebody, like with Onyx, for example, or with Chief, with those dogs, we very much knew what those dogs were from a development standpoint, not just what they became. And
It's a very valid point.
When we're looking at talking about what Cassie's strengths, what her weaknesses are, we're looking at that from her development standpoint, through her training, she's not a finished dog. She's not done all the things yet. So we're looking at what she truly is, not what we can mold her into becoming through training and testing and titling. And so sometimes when you look at these pedigrees of these dogs, that doesn't tell you the whole picture, because yes, the numbers and what we just went over mean something, but also what each of those dogs are, like you're saying. That pedigree doesn't tell me anything about being bubbly and happy-footed.
Right.
But working with them, seeing them does. And not everyone is as honest about what their dogs are. And so they're like, yeah, they're great. They're this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, I do remember now that you've done the breeding and you're saying your puppies are doing this. Oh, yeah, that my dog used to do that too. Be like,
well, sometimes you forget too, because you fix
you
it
do.
as a puppy or a young dog, and then now the dog's 5 or 6, and this happens just with raising puppies in general, not even talking about their abilities or whatever else. It's just like, wow, this new puppy is a lot of work. And you go, yeah, puppies in general are always a lot of work. Maybe there's
we
some slight
can
variances.
never forget, because we're constantly raising puppies.
Well, it's-
but
Yeah, we do. But
A prime example is I wanted a little breezy clone, and then I got one, and I was like, oh, did
Is
I
that really what I wanted?
want? I kind of do. One. But in having the one critique that she's a little bubbly or bouncy, or it seems like, oh, that's all you got, but she's really
pretty
nice.
dog.
I mean,
yeah. Yes.
she's very nice.
I think that she could benefit from a coat standpoint.
Yeah, we want to start getting into confirmation coat, like that kind of stuff. Then
that's why you were mentioning like confirmation.
Yeah.
East might be a better help, but coat, Doc's got the coat, man.
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared to give you specific examples. It just in my head, I just looking at them, they just complement each other.
I understand.
So I can't say, oh, it's this, well, East has this longer leg and her leg's a little shorter. I don't really know it that much. I just know looking at them every day that's what was my gut reaction from confirmation.
How do you make that go back to comments?
Oh, sorry. I was just admiring the top fans of the live here.
Man, we rambled on and on and on and on forever and ever.
But I mean, it literally turns into we've literally called to talk about one little thing, and I'm like, oh, I found this one dog, and next thing you know, it's an hour and a half later, and we've, like I said, have 40 tabs open, and we're on some dog that is out of 4 untitled dogs, but man, the pedigree's nice or something, who knows? Just
wild.
Because you just end up down rabbit holes, but
it's wild. And that's the problem / fun of it. And
we don't have to do it with stud books like they used to.
Exactly. We do have some very valuable resources online, primarily the NAVDA database. The AKC database is there, but you have to pay for the information, which kind of sucks. But we've bought a lot of research pedigrees, too, to kind of fill things out. And the progeny reports is pretty cool. But now with OFAs collecting data, too, they also, if the dogs have been tested, which is something we're looking for from a health standpoint, they show up in progeny reports there, which is open database.
Half siblings, and you find all kinds of, you're like, oh, I didn't even know that female was bred to that male. I kind of like that too. And then, oh, look, half this litter was tested and health tested and hunt tested, and it's opened some doors before.
I was trying to look back through for Higgins dogs, and there aren't a lot of them left.
No, I don't even know if Top Gun really has anything He might have some
I don't
frozen,
know.
which doesn't help us for this, but
No. But
a Trigger Des male. See, this is how we get, because Trigger is out of Hemi, who is a Higgins daughter, maybe.
And a beautifully colored picture straight to us from Cade. Ha ha ha. He's got a big smile on his face.
Speaking of pictures, Egregious Blender said, "Who did the picture of the pup on the shelf behind you?"
The Vex one?
That one, maybe? The wooden one?
The wooden one?
I don't
don't
see the
anything
camera
else.
to know.
That's probably the only one that you can see that's not a photo. Who did that one come from, Ethan? Do you remember?
Yeah. Chris, who is going hunting with me this fall. There you go. A little sparkling water.
I'm going to answer capital catfishing. If you would like to come, there is room, I believe.
Yep.
To the training day.
Yep.
Seminar.
Seminar.
To the seminar. Yep.
There's
you can
a link
sign up.
on our Standing Stone Supply store. If you go to standingstonesupply.com, you can search seminar and it'll pop up and you can sign up still. There was a question about quail from Michelle.
Let me know if you are interested in seminar, though, because I just confirmed food today. So I just need to know so I can let the
Caterer know.
the caterer know for food side of stuff. But outside
It's
of that,
such
we'd
good
love to have
food.
you.
It's such
You
good
and a
food.
+1 would be fantastico.
So Michelle asked, "Is it okay to house training quail where my dog regularly roams, or do I need to keep them in a completely different area?"
Not
If-
house training, but house training quail. You said it right. I just putting different
It
emphasis
kinda-
on
yeah,
different syllables. I was like, "What are you talking about? House training quail?"
I was like,
But
as I
house
read
them.
it, I was like,
Yeah.
house
house
training
them.
quail.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
were brave.
So it's a combination of things. Literally, the pigeons are immediately adjacent to the let-out pen. They're 5 feet apart. They can watch them fly up into it. They can see them. It's a distraction more to some dogs than others, but I really feel like dogs are very good at context, and they can understand if there's a clear expectation. You're not going to ruin the dog's bird drive or desire or anything else, but you can create neurotic behavior if you allow them to chase and bark and go nuts every
Make
time
the
they see
quail
them.
flush. And
But
Yes.
also, like, Hex as a puppy, annoyingly, you'd take him out to go to the bathroom. The pigeons would all be pecking gravel,
And
and
he's
he
just
wouldn't
pointing
move.
them.
He
He
would
wouldn't
just
go potty,
point
yeah.
and wouldn't go potty because he has an incredible amount of pointing instinct and steadiness. So they can cause problems.
It would be optimal to have them someplace else, but they can also learn the difference in like the yard birds
or chicken.
yeah, sometimes dogs are very naughty with yard birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the weird part about it is it's situational in context. So I guess they can be fairly naughty, and that's kind of the opposite.
and
but
by yard birds we mean free chucker. There's just chucker running around.
or pigeons, they'll try and point them and then chase them, and then but it doesn't apply to the field or the work later. It's just like they know in the yard I can get away with whatever.
And I know people that have chickens and chicken coops and bird dogs, and they coexist just fine. So definitely teaching the difference between use these birds in the field, but not acknowledge and interact with them when they're not. If you can create some kind of sight barrier, I don't think that would hurt the situation at all.
I definitely had dogs when I had a smaller yard and homing pigeons that they really struggled to stay, like we had to stay on them all the time to stay away from the homing pigeons. So it really just kind of like all things comes down to the dog and what you're able to manage. But short of the neurotic behavior, which would be the biggest thing I would worry about, as far as their training goes, it's not going to cause a problem.
Nah.
So this is a good question, and Charles, you might be able to help answer it a little bit too. Blaine Bean said Arkansas finally has an active NOVD chapter. What are some must-have items gear to bring for a training day? And I would say that probably varies a little bit based on chapters. Some chapters probably have bird bags and bird boxes and things like that, but some chapters might not. So having a bird bag.
Some way to hold your birds. That is the number one. Showing up to a new area, new chapter, new training day, and having the ability to hold your birds immediately will make the chapter love you.
because they're doling out birds, and if you have nowhere to put them, then they're just mixed in with everyone else's birds and then you're trying to keep track of, well, how many have you already used and things like that.
And then the more times they got to get into the boxes, the more chance birds get out, and then all of a sudden somebody's short a bird.
Yep.
The other one would be a little bit weather dependent, but water for both of you.
Yes.
Is it going to be a big one right now?
And not just bowls of water, but also having water bottles in the field. So you're not going to necessarily want to try and bring a bowl and a jug of water in the field with you. That can be great for while you're at the truck, but if you're in the field, you also want water bottles. That's something that, whether you're at a training day or a test, I highly recommend having actual water bottles with squirt tops, not just an open twist-off lid would be best. Some kind of a leash or check cord so that you have a way to air your dog, control your dog, so they're not always running willy-nilly would be good.
Yep. Shade, if depending on their setup, if shade can make a huge difference. If you don't have natural shade available, to have like a pop-up is big. Arkansas probably has trees, so it's probably not as big of a deal. And with that, also a stakeout if you don't have a way, or like a battery fan is a big one if you need an excuse to buy a Milwaukee tool. I always like that. But battery fan can help too a lot with having a dog in a crate, because
Moving air helps.
You can stay very busy. Generally at a training day, your dog is going to get out. It's going to do a short session, maybe a couple, a field, a track, a water, depending on what you're prepping for. So there's going to be a lot more time where the dog specifically is hanging out. And I would say get involved. Ask to help plant birds. Go watch people work their dogs. You can learn just as much by watching other people handle and watching other people's dogs as you can doing your own. So.
And some, if not all, well, definitely not all of the things that you listed, but a good portion of it is available at standingstonesupply.com. And if your
not
chapter,
those Milwaukee fans, though.
No.
If your chapter needs a little help too, just reach out to us and let us know.
Yep.
So,
And Brian, I will a request for bourbon, and I will help the bingo people out. Is why not bring some single barrel bourbon of some kind? I don't know if that's going to help somebody get a bingo or not, but I know it's a space.
Aaron said, "Thanks, guys. Can't wait to see you in a month and get a puppy." I know, that's really exciting. Quest's puppies will be going home here July 26th, the same day as the sous vide puppies. It is going to be a busy Saturday at Standing Stone Kennels.
Is he getting a boy or a girl?
I think he's getting a boy. I got a boy.
Sorry to.
Now I got to
press
look
you.
at my list.
boy.
I'm pretty sure,
Is
but
he
I
an
could be
adopt
wrong. If
clone
I'm
or a legacy
wrong,
clone?
I have to look at my list.
Well, he's
but
in here. I'm sure he can answer.
Oh my goodness, they're going back and forth. It's a neck and neck race for the number one spot.
Okay,
A super chat has to help.
Kaylin said, "Do you guys sedate for OFAs or unsedated? There's two places local to me that do them, one sedated and one doesn't. I've heard differing opinions."
All right, so here's the short and condensed long version of this.
Yeah.
First and foremost, when you do hip x-rays and you do OFA, they, to my knowledge, it's just one view.
Correct.
OFA view. Okay. The dog's legs are pulled behind them so that they essentially look as if they are standing upright like a human, which is what the x-ray is based off of. That's fine and dandy. They can see things like if the dog is dysplastic, as well as if they have signs of osteoarthritis or degenerative joint disorders of any kind. They can see the good stuff and they can see the bad stuff. It is looked at by a panel of veterinarians that does rotate. Again, this is not 100% written out anywhere, I believe. Three is what I think. And they make a consensus, and they say we think they're good, or they're excellent, or they're dysplastic, or they're severely dysplastic, or what have you. I have seen firsthand x-rays be sent, the same x-rays, be sent more than once, and received different scores. Now, not to poo-poo on the process, okay? What you can see is, does the dog have hip issues? Are they dysplastic? Are they not dysplastic? And then outside of that, that good, excellent rating is subjective and depends on who's looking at them, okay? The next piece, and the big part of why we do pen hip testing. Now, granted, there are variances in, it's a different type. There's OFA and then pen hip testing are the only two that I know of. They do multiple views. They do the OFA. Baby, I don't have any more, okay? We're almost done. They take multiple views, and they do a measurement, basically, how tight the hips push into the socket and how much they'll come out of the socket, and then measure that elasticity. So if you think about ball and socket category, the more movement you have, the more likely it is to wear out faster. That's the thought process. Then they also take the OFA view and tell some of the big signs of dysplastic, not dysplastic, things of that nature. Now, with that, there is a lot more variance in the x-rays themselves. You can get different readings based on who's doing them. If someone is not as experienced, you have less consistency as someone who's done a lot of them. So it is important to go to someone who's done a lot. Now,
that was going to be my answer.
Full circle here to the anesthetized or not, sedated, not sedated. If you think about how comfortable a dog would be stretching their legs straight out behind them while they are awake, I would assume that you can imagine the amount that they would clench those muscles and tighten up what is happening back there, which could potentially and most likely be a better answer there, skew what the results are going to look like-ish. What it's not going to hide either way is if there are signs of osteoarthritis or degenerative joint disorder. So really, the biggest thing that I can say is we find it to be most consistent to use somebody that has done a lot of them and is known for doing a good job, not for getting good results, but for doing a good job, and then having them sedated is important. And then all things said and done, you are learning that the dogs are either dysplastic or not dysplastic.
The other piece that I want to mention is with what we do, we're doing pen hip for all of our hips. And then we do still do OFA elbows. And with pen hip, you can do that younger than 2. Whereas the OFA, they would just be considered preliminaries if they're younger than 2 for those elbows. So with some dogs, like I know Jessica's dog, Sue V, she just waited to have everything done at once, the whole shebang, because Sue V wasn't going anywhere, no matter what her results were. But she just waited. So it was one anesthetic event that she was under for both hips and then those elbows at the same time. With our dogs, a lot of times we'll do pen hip at like a year. And then that gives us a piece of information, and then we can move forward with doing their OFA when they hit 2 for their elbows. But that way, because we are raising a lot of dogs, and it is part of the business plan as well and business model, if there was something to pop up where it's like, ooh, those hips weren't as good as we'd hoped, we're not going to invest an entire another year from a breeding prospect standpoint. We are going to say that dog's probably not going to make the cut from a breeding standpoint just based on their hip score, let alone what else we are going to look at from a health clearances standpoint in the future. So we'll go ahead and continue training them and have a trained dog. Now, when we're talking about hips, we're not talking about dogs with dysplastic hips. We're not talking about dogs that are going to have hip dysplasia. We're talking about dogs that don't meet our high standard or they fall outside of the mean median for short hairs. We're wanting to constantly improve the breed. So even if we have a dog that doesn't have as tight of hips, they don't have degenerative joint disorder or osteoarthritis or hip dysplasia. So they just don't meet our standard from a breeding side of the things.
One of the most interesting direct references that I have with real numbers and real dog, the x-rays were sent in to pen hip. The dog's rating were 0.59, 0.59.
That's rough.
It's high. It's very high for
especially
short
for a short hair.
hairs. Yeah, for short hairs. Now we're finding out that would be really good for cockers, but
I don't know about really good, but it'd be like, oh, woohoo, cockers.
not really. But they're not quite as good as what the short hairs are.
Their range
for
is
numbers.
different.
Now the mean or the median for short hairs as a whole in pen hip numbers has gone down as more dogs are getting tested, which is makes sense. But it's in the 3s category. I don't know off the top of my head what it is right now, but it's in the 3s. So to be in this 0.59 zone, I don't think you took enough of the picture of that to show, or you have an email. But in that 0.59 category, I'm like, these are bad compared to most of the rest of the breed. Same x-rays, not new x-rays taken. The OFA view sent in to OFA, submitted separately. OFA excellent rating. So
this is well, it's on my phone. Here.
You can't pull that.
Well, I can put it on your computer, and you can pull it up real quick. Can't I do that? Will it work on this? What number is this?
But it'll be hard. It's 4, maybe. It's a guess.
I don't know who's or who pen hip it is.
It's Thunder's.
Oh. Oof.
It was a little scanned wonky, but the information's there.
Nice.
Can you
Go
push
ahead and flip
5?
to 5. We'll look at it real quick.
It was the first one that came up when I searched pen hip on my phone. So this is what you get.
Oh, it's not the 5. I was like,
No.
not 5'9".
No.
That's what I was like, oh, what?
No, 0.19. He was 0.19,
Not our
0.19.
dog. Not our dog.
Yeah.
So here's an exam. Shows just patient information. And then the findings, what we were talking about before, the distraction index, which is that measurement of movement, 0.19 left hip, right hip, 0.19 left hip, 0.19. So very consistent. What I've seen most, like when we've done both of them, most consistently across the board is the more consistent the hips are, being 0.59, 0.59, those were rated as excellent. His hips would most likely rate as excellent, which they are very good, but it's more because of the fact that they're symmetrical as well. You see,
it says no
radiographic evidence of osteoarthritis, OA, for either hip, and then no cavitation, which is like air in the hip socket, which would affect the rating as well, as you can imagine, which can happen due to too much movement when they're trying to do the process. So again, in the earlier stages of the process, we did utilize a veterinarian that had cavitation show up fairly regularly, and then they can't do the readings. You have to re-x-ray them. So it's another anesthetic event, not ideal. The vets that we use now do a really good job. So, and then here you can see this would have been, it shows as the numbers increase, you go from low risk, mild risk, moderate risk, and then high risk for issues. The average for the breed at this time, as I'm highlighting random things, 0.34. So,
which you can see is that little square inside the shaded area.
That's the average. We don't have to be inside that average, but it is something to pay attention to move in the right direction. And most of our dogs, almost all of our dogs, fall underneath that average, but there are a few that fall right at or a little above, and we tend to breed those dogs to better hips as well. You know, if they're not going to have hip dysplasia, they just have differences there. So, and then it does give interpretation and recommendations, but generally speaking, when you have 0.19, there's not a whole lot going on for the recommendation category. Switch us back to... For whatever reason, my phone switcher didn't work, folks. All right. So, great question about hips. And what else
I just was
That
pulling.
was a long way to say find the one that sedated or
Sedated
not.
would be best for the most accurate results.
Sedation,
and finding one that
Somebody that does it a lot.
Yeah, and
they're good.
doing it, if you're going to do hips and elbows, it sounds like you're going to do OFA for both hips and elbows, not pen hip and elbows. Just waiting to do them both at the same time, though, for one anesthetic event is also going to be less risky. So this was just funny. I pulled up because we also were getting the Cocker's hips done around the same time. And the Cocker average distraction index is 0.53. And we were just talking about 0.34 was the short hair median.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. 0.59. I was like, that's pretty good for cockers. So, all said and done. Again, it's finding good and moving in a direction up. There's no such thing as perfect. So, all right, folks, that's what we've got for this evening. We got to put little boys to bed. It is past their bedtime. Thank you guys for joining us, and even with all of the things that happened this evening. But we appreciate y'all, and we will keep you posted on when the next one is. I'm the guy with the pink gun.
I'm Kat the dog trainer.
And just Charles.
All right,
We'll get
see y'all.
something someday.
Someday.